Good day, my wonderful people. You're welcome to the channel. This is Yuglu Fashion. Thank you so much for stopping by. Today I'll be showing you how to make this simple dress with inner pockets. So please stay tuned and enjoy the tutorial. These are the materials I'll be using. First of all, this is the Ankara fabric I'll be using for the tutorial. My Duchess, also lining, and my interface I used paper stay. This is the measurement also that I'll be working with today. So let me put everything aside and let's get down to business. So for this dress, it's a simple dress, so I'll just be cutting both the front and the back bodies together because they have the same measurements. So to do this, I ensure the edges of the fabric are equal. You can see the two edges equal, and I'm folding 4 pieces at a time. The two edges together, then I later folded it, so which makes it 4. So while doing this, in order not to fold more than you need or lesser than you needed, what you will do is you just measure the hip circumference. The hip circumference I worked with here is 50 inches. 50 inches divided by 4, that's 12.5. Just add 5 inches to it, so to know how to fold it, so you won't fold more than you needed. So what I folded here is just 17.5 inches. So 17.5 inches, because you will still need the 5 inches to make the A-line shape at the M line. So first of all, I measured the nipple point, which is 12 inches, the under bust, and also the hip. I will not be using the half length measurement here. So I used the hip, from shoulder to hip I used 25, and the length of the dress is 42 inches. So I used the remaining 2 inches for M. The circumference of the bust also is 48. I divided it into 4, sorry. I divided it into 4. Also the under bust, I divided that into 4 as well. And as I mentioned earlier, the hip length, I divided the hip circumference, I divided it into 4. That's 12.5. Then I added 2 inches seam allowance, 1 inch for ease. You know it's a free dress, so you need 1 inch for ease, and the remaining 1 inch for your regular allowance. So having done that, in order to get the shape of the M line, sorry, I adjusted the camera so that you can see what I'm doing very well. I measured the circumference of the hip, which is 12.5. Then I added 5 inches to it. So I'll be connecting this to the allowance I added, so you can see the results I have there. Then the next thing now is to just measure the circumference of the shoulder, which is 18 inches divided by 2. Like I do say, it is only the shoulder that is divided by 2. Every other part is usually divided by 4. Then from the shoulder, I came down with 7 inches and I wrote that out. That's for the armhole. After connecting the shoulder to the armhole, the angle here, I measured 1 inch in. And from the shoulder again, I came down with 4.5 inch. Here, at the 4.5 inch, I measured half and connected the line with my curve shape. So whatever I have at the nipple point, the circumference I have there, I will add 1 inch to it just to give me the slope I needed for the armhole. So I'm adding 1 inch, and you can see the slant shape I got there. So that's our simple dress already. After cutting it out, this is what I have. The next thing now is to measure the circumference of the neckline. So for the neckline, I used 3 inches, and at the shoulder here I measured 1 inch down, then slant it back to the neckline. That's for the shoulder slope. Having done with that, I came back to the neckline. Remember, I'm still cutting both front and back together. So for the neckline, I only cut the neckline of the front of the back, which is 1 inch, 3 inches by 1 inch. So I went ahead to separate the two from each other. So one will serve as the front and the other will serve as the back bodies. So I tried to work with the back at first, because I'll be fixing zipper, just a small zipper at the back. I came down with like 9 inches from the shoulder. I measured 9 inches and I opened it up. So that's where the zipper will be fixed. Back to the front bodies. So for the front, I came down with 4 inches at the neckline. From the shoulder, I measured 4 inches. The neckline is not really low, so 4 inches is okay. Then I cuff it out and cut. After cutting it, I opened it up. The next thing is to cut my Duchess fabric. I would have loved to use velvet fabric for this, but I couldn't lay my hand on this color. So the closest color to this, I got it on Duchess. So that was why I used Duchess for this design. Now, after that, I measure the nipple points. I ensure that the Duchess ended at the nipple point, which is 12 inches, and I trace it out with the shape of the neckline and the shoulder. So after cutting it, this is what I have. The next thing is to measure the nipple to nipple span. The nipple span is 8.5 inches divided by 2. You know it's on fold already, so I divided it by 2. Then I slanted it to the armhole side. But I later realized that according to the style, it doesn't end at the armhole side, rather it ended at the shoulder. So I had to reshape this. So I had to reshape. It ended at the shoulder, not at the armhole. So I just slant the nipple to nipple, from the nipple to nipple down to the shoulder. So this is how it should be. I did that for one side, so I had to trim the other side as well. So to trim, I placed the two sides equally at the middle. I ensure the middle is well placed. Then I cut the side out. So this is the correct shape. The next thing now is to cut the sleeve, and for the sleeve as well, I folded into 4 the 2 edges like I did for the bodies. You can see the 2 edges, and I folded that together to make 4. So I have 2 folded side, one at the downside here and one at that faced me. So here I measured 2, later measured 5 inch, and also the length of the fabric, the length of the sleeve is 8 inches. I added 1 inch for seam, so you can see the 1 inch. I've ruled that out. Here I measured the circumference of the bicep plus 1 inch in order to have a slope there, in order to have a slant shape there. And here also I measured the circumference of the sleeve plus 1 inch for allowance. And also measure same thing here as well. That's the measurement of the elbow. It's not up to the elbow actually, that's where the 8 inches ended. So when you are measuring, just measure the length 8 inches on your sleeve and get the circumference there also, so you won't make mistake while doing this. But for this style you need extra allowance because the sleeve is not really tight, it's loose. So, and at the upper ear I measure 3 inches, then use cuff shape to connect the bicep and the shoulder together, the upper part of the sleeve together. For the sleeve I also cut my duchess. I used 2.5 inches rather, 2.5 inches for the sleeve. So I added half inch for seam. After cutting the sleeve, I went ahead to cut the pocket. So I just need straight fabric. All the rough edges I had to trim them out. So now that the edge is straight, I folded this also into 4. At first I folded into 2. The length I used was 12 inches for the pocket. I used 12 inches. So 12 inches folded into 4. The length is 12. You can see the edge here. Then so now I also have 2 folded parts, one at the down here and the other one facing my direction. So after measuring the 12 inches for the length, I used 8 inches for the width. I connected the two together, and from this angle I measured 2 inches just to give me the cuff shape I needed. So this is the shape of the pocket. Like I said, I have 2 joint parts. You can see that's one, so I had to open this first to separate the pocket, and the middle part as well. I opened it up. So now you can see the 4 pieces, these 2, and this is 2 as well. I went ahead to embellish it with my rhinestone. So first of all, I'll be stitching this to the neckline. I also added paper stay to the duchess, just to give it stiffness, to make it stand well. And here also I stitched the sides together. So after stitching the sides on my bodies, I went ahead to tape it with my bias tape. So first of all, I opened the bias tape and stitch one side, then later top stitch the bias tape. Having done with that, the next thing is to stitch my lining to the neckline. So after doing that, I went ahead to do the back. I've also stitched the lining to the back bodies. Now to fix the zip, the open parts, I just stitch it on one side of the zipper. Ensure it is well placed on the zipper and ensure there's no folding in between as well. It's very easy to make. It's not difficult and it's not time consuming at all. So after stitching the zipper, I opened the zip, then fold the edge inside. Then later stitch the shoulder of both front bodies and the back bodies together. So to do this, I opened the back, then placed the front bodies in between the lining of the back and the main fabric. So please, if this video has done you any good, if you have benefited anything from this video, please subscribe for more and also like and share the video. And if you have any question or anything to say at all, please let's meet in the comment section. After stitching the shoulder, I went ahead to stitch the allowance, the 1 inch. 1 inch is for ease, and the 1 inch allowance I stitched it out. This is where I'll be using my half length measurement. So I've chalked that out from shoulder to half length. I chalked it. Then from that half length, I marked 7 inches. After the half length, I marked 7 inches. So that's where the pocket will be fixed. And I stitched the remaining parts of the dress. So this is the pocket. I'll be stitching 2 together for one side. But before I start this, I marked half inch. So it's directly after the half inch I marked, I'll start my stitch. And I'll be stitching this round. Please note where I started it from. So after stitching it round, here also I left 7 inches. Initially I left half at the upper side, then from that half I came down with, I left 7 inches from that half. So I marked 7 inches, you can see, from the half, and that was where I ended my stitch. So that's where the hand will enter through. I've done that for the 2. Now to fix it on my dress, so I'll just, the longer side will be facing the down, while the half-inch side will be facing the upper bodice. I hope you understand what I'm trying to explain here. Now the half-inch I left, that's where I'm starting my stitch from now, and I'll stitch half-inch to the main bodice. Just extend it, the stitch, extend it with just like 1 inch. That is, instead of stitching and stopping at the 7 inches, you can stitch it up to like 8 inch. You can see. Then after stitching one side, I went ahead to stitch the other side as well. You need to lock it first, then just stitch the half-inch all through to the edge. So easy. Now we are done with our pockets. You can see. So that's where the hand will enter through. So I turned it to the right side just for you to see how it is. So for the sleeve now, I've turned it with my lining. I just stitched the edges together. Then for the hem, you can see I did the hem, just stitch on it. And I went ahead also to add rhinestone to the Duchess. Also I added paper stay. The next thing now is to stitch the Duchess to the sleeve. Then I picked my, after stitching, I picked my bias tape and also top stitch it on the sleeve. First of all, I stitched the one side of the bias, then later top stitched. So thank you very much for watching this video to the end. Please like and share, and also subscribe. Remain ever blessed. I went ahead to stitch it to my main bodice. Thank you. Bye.